Tonight on Marketplace, we bring in an undercover watchdog to watch what vets charge.
Over the course of the year, it does add up.
Our four-legged sleuth helps us put vets to the test.
So $7,400? This is quite a vet bill.
Think you might be getting dinged?
It doesn't make sense, in our opinion, to be testing every year.
I think that's in pretty poor taste if they're charging for stuff we don't need.
Wait till we reveal the top 5 ways you may be paying too much at the vet. You'll be barking mad. Okay, this isn't how a marketplace investigation normally begins. A casting call for dogs?
Hey, let's see Daisy.
We're searching for an undercover agent with chops.
Hi.
A pooch to help us test what it really costs to keep our pets healthy.
She pretty friendly?
And did we mention we're looking for number 1, not number 2? Our pooch needs to be cool under pressure. Of course, a real digger.
He loves to dig.
And willing to take on an assignment most dogs would be barking mad to accept.
Good girl.
Lots of talent, but which dog is it gonna be? Turns out there's a ringer in the crowd. Marshall. He's used to hard work as a show dog, and he's top bulldog in Canada. Perfect. His owner, Tammy McAllister, is game too. Marshall's assignment? To go undercover. Put 10 Toronto vets to the test. To bring you in on the action, we'll be tagging along
Hey, buddy.
with hidden cameras rolling.
That's ready to go.
Thanks.
There are over 14 million pets in Canada. That's almost 1 in every other home. And caring for them adds up to big bucks. Last year alone, we spent more than $6 billion. Yep, with a B on our pets. And in just over a decade, the amount we spend at the vet and on pet care has more than doubled. And a lot of you told us some of those vet fees make you barking mad.
Hi, Marketplace. My name is Jocelyn, and this is my dog, Flynn.
This is my puppy, Ruby.
This is Amico.
This is Boom Boom, my chihuahua.
You know what makes me mad is veterinarians overcharging for the services.
There was a very long list of charges,
It cost me almost $450.
just over $600.
That Flynn is gone. Owning another dog probably is impossible for us.
That's crazy expensive, and I'm barking mad.
Like you, these owners admit they'll do just about anything for their pets.
Stay.
And their vet bills from the past year prove it. Joey's a pretty healthy pug, but he rang up a bill of $646.
Is that about an average bill for you?
Almost, yeah.
The vet bill for Chaos and Mayhem, more than $1,300.
Yes, it can get up to that and even higher sometimes.
And big dogs can mean even bigger bills.
$7,400? This is quite a vet bill.
It's a good thing I have savings.
And there's something we spot on every one of these bills. Vaccines. They're a big reason many of us take our pets to the vet. So, up first on our list of ways you may be paying too much at the vet, vaccines. Marshall's in fine form and ready to start digging for answers.
And this would be Marshall. Come on in, please.
So we begin our test with 2 shots key to keeping our pets healthy, rabies and one called DHPP. We tell vets Marshall's up to date on both those shots, so some say he's good to go.
I don't like to over-vaccinate.
And so how long could he go between vaccinations?
Every dog's different. Some dogs go 10 years.
But others suggest we do them again today, just to be safe.
So it would be the distemper that we would need to give today.
The core dog vaccine distemper is due today.
And some say they give vaccines every year to get pets in the door.
We found that if we don't, if the vaccine isn't due, people tend to just forget to come in.
All told, in our test, 6 out of 10 vets recommend giving Marshall a shot that day. But does he really need them? To get the upshot on all these shots, we head to California, land of health and glamour, and not just for people.
That's Prince Charming.
So cute. But there's no time for chilling out. We've come to meet up with Dr. Jean Dodds. Today, she runs a greyhound rescue, but she's a veterinarian and researcher who spent most of her career studying vaccines and how long they last. And when it comes to those 2 key vaccines, get this.
So your research has shown that a vaccination can last up to 3 years?
Oh no, much more than that. 7 to 9 years is published.
But we tell her about those 6 out of 10 vets who recommend giving Marshall a shot before he's due.
What goes through your mind when you hear that stat?
They're wrong, totally wrong. It's inappropriate, and they need to get with the current policies and guidelines.
And had Marshall gotten those 2 vaccines that weren't due, it would have added $40 to our bill. Back at the dog park, news of over-vaccinating and overpaying doesn't sit well with these owners.
I think that's in pretty poor taste if they're charging for stuff we don't need.
You would have saved $141 on your bill just this year alone.
That would have been a nice savings. That could have gone to their dog food for a month.
Vets are sure in the doghouse on this one, and we want to know why. So we take Marshall for a walk to the nation's capital and the offices of the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, where we meet up with President and veterinarian Dr. Jim Barry.
Hi there. I'm Erica Johnson from Marketplace.
Nice to meet you, Jim Barry.
This is Marshall.
Hey, buddy.
We tell him about vets not following current guidelines.
The science is now clear that adult dogs only need those key vaccines once every 3 years. But in our survey, a number of vets still recommended that Marshall get those shots every year.
The data suggests 3 years, but the individual decision depends on conversation between the veterinarian and the client.
Why are pet owners being asked to pay every year for something that's not necessary?
If your veterinarian believes for whatever reason that the risks warrant doing a yearly vaccine as opposed to an every 3rd year vaccine, then that is appropriate.
Up next, are vets cashing in on your fears?
That might explain why your bills are adding up.
Yes, it does.
And Marshall stops at nothing for our next test.
Good boy.
We've hired a secret shopper of the 4-legged kind to go undercover at 10 vets, help us test if we're paying too much. If you own a pet, chances are you've been warned about heartworm. We sure were.
So the heartworm is from a mosquito?
Yep, a nasty parasite transferred through a mosquito bite. We spot posters on heartworm, and even though we tell vets Marshall's on a drug to prevent it, all still bring up testing for the disease.
And the other thing he would need, he needs a heartworm test.
Generally, what we recommend is every spring we do a heartworm test.
So that's next on our list, heartworm testing. To find out just how big the risk of heartworm actually is, we head to the University of Guelph to meet a guy with a fascination for worms, Professor Andrew Peregrine. He's a leading expert on heartworm in Canada. So how much of that is there in downtown Toronto, where we visited our vets?
The risk is extremely low. It's not zero, but extremely low.
The risk is only 0.15%, smaller than the odds of catching a ball at a major league game. The risk's even lower than that in most parts of the country. But when we ask vets about those odds, clear answers are equally hard to come by.
So I can't give you a specific number. I can tell you to recommend the test every year.
How effective is the heartworm medication?
You got me. They still get 3 or 4 cases a year. Not very many. Most of the dogs from the States.
Remember, we told vets Marshall's on a medication to prevent heartworm. And because it's highly effective, our worm guy says,
in the opinion of the other experts in the other vet schools and myself, it doesn't make sense, in our opinion, to be testing every year.
And we do hear that.
Would you recommend that he have the heartworm test?
No.
But 8 out of 10 vets we visit tell us Marshall should be tested every year.
It's just to be on the safe side.
And all that testing sure is big business. We crunched the most recent numbers for Ontario alone. In 2010, vets did more than 289,000 tests for heartworm. That adds up to almost $14.5 million pet owners shelled out. We tell Dr. Jim Barry, top dog at the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association.
When pet owners bring their animals in to see a vet, they trust that what they're getting is the best information for their animal and for their pocketbook.
Clients are more than welcome to ask why. What is the recommendation based on?
The point is, owners should be given choices and information before they're billed for things.
And I would argue that most vets offer a lot of choice.
So do people know dogs on preventatives don't need yearly tests?
It was just something that they did.
A routine test.
A routine test, yes.
Over the course of their lives, you've spent $448 on heartworm testing.
Wow.
Wow is right. And had we gotten that heartworm testing, it would have added about $50 to our bill.
All right, boy, let's go. Come on.
Next up, as we put vets to the test, our intrepid sleuth arrives for a special appointment. But this time, he's in for some high-tech testing of his weight at a veterinary research center.
So we need to slide him in backwards?
Like all the testing Marshall's signed up for, it's perfectly safe. But it does take a little adjusting to get him in place.
In you go.
3 minutes inside this body scanner.
We're all done.
And it's official. Marshall's a pretty fit guy, give or take a couple of pounds. 9 out of 10 vets get that right.
He's a good weight, okay? I mean, he's solid.
He's pretty good, because bulldogs are built like that.
So imagine our surprise when this vet tells us,
He's giant. He's giant. He's heavy.
He's overweight.
He's really overweight.
and her solution?
We have something called a metabolic diet, which is really good. It's a brand new Hills diet.
Hills Prescription Diet Weight Solution.
A new weight loss program from a big pet food company. That brings us to number 3 on our list, the push on pet food.
Well, what I'm going to do is send in a nurse, and we're going to measure him.
We're told the program will calculate how much weight Marshall has to lose by taking a few unusual measurements.
I'm trying to get around the rules. It's all very similar to my teeth.
What'll Marshall's results be? Back in the waiting room, his info's entered into the computer, and voila.
His ideal weight is 10 kilograms less than what it is right now.
10 kilograms less? There'll be nothing left of him.
Yep, you heard right. Marshall's about 21 pounds overweight. And to shed those pounds, we're given instructions to feed Marshall a pricey food that boasts it's scientifically proven to help dogs lose weight. Made by Hills Pet Nutrition. The same company behind that measuring program the vet used to figure out Marshall's weight. And that brand sure is popular. We see it for sale in every vet clinic we visit. Makes us wonder, is this vet's diagnosis about slimming Marshall down or pumping sales up? To get the real skinny, we fly in an expert on pet nutrition. Dr. Joseph Barges is from the University of Tennessee. He helped write guidelines on weight and nutrition for pets that vets across North America use.
Hello, Marshall. How are you?
At Tammy's house, he checks Marshall out and shows us how a weight check at the vet should be done.
And so what we look at is, from the side, does he have any fat when he's standing up? Does he have any fat laying down, kind of hanging underneath? I can feel all his ribs. Even with all his wrinkles as a bulldog, I can feel his spine.
His diagnosis?
I think if he lost around 5 to maybe 10 pounds at most, would probably put him at an ideal body condition and body weight.
Long way from what we heard at the vet.
He's giant. He's giant.
We show Barge's video of that exam. He says it should have been handled differently, since he suspects Marshall wasn't measured properly at the clinic.
I would have taken a step back and went, something's wrong. I don't think he's that overweight, and yet the number that got spit out is a lot more than I would expect.
So we head back to the clinic to tell that vet, Dr. Karen Regan, what we found. And she agrees. Marshall doesn't need to lose as much as she originally said.
Do you regret letting us walk out the door with a diagnosis that he had 45.7% body fat? He needed to lose so much weight, he had to be on this dog food for so long?
I would regret if there was no follow-up with him. Certainly, that is a fair amount, and it wasn't as necessary.
But if he only needs to lose 5 pounds, maybe 10, does he need the expensive dog food that you were suggesting?
Expensive dog food? Wow. We're not selling something that's not going to work. We're going to be selling something that we know is going to benefit their pet. It's going to cost more because there's been a lot of research and work going into it.
True, in their ads, Hills says it has the science to back up their claims of proven weight loss.
Hills scientists first looked at how the genes associated with fat metabolism are expressed in overweight pets.
But when we ask to see those studies, Hills tells us they're not published yet. And had we followed that advice to buy the pricey dog food, it would have added $382 to our bill. Coming up, are you paying too much for pet meds?
Here, the medication was $71. In the US, $18.
And does our undercover dog need to go under the knife?
So you would cut a piece of the eyelid out?
Yes.
We're testing 10 vets, revealing ways you could be saving on your next vet bill. We chose Marshall for this test because overall he's a pretty healthy guy. So far, he's been prescribed unnecessary vaccines and heartworm testing. But what happens to the bill when things go wrong with your pet's health? Up next on our list, differing diagnoses. Marshall's only health concern right now are dry eyes that require drops. And while one vet misses that completely, the other 9 quickly focus in.
He's got a bit of irritation on his eyes.
You noticed that before?
That's a cloud next to his cornea on the right side.
But their course of action depends on who you ask.
Yeah, it almost looks like he may have had a bit of like a scratch.
Do you see how his eyelids are rolling in?
Here we're told surgery may be needed.
You would cut the eyelid and make it so that it's thinner and doesn't roll into the eye.
At another clinic, more talk of surgery.
They cut here and then they suture so the skin stays like this.
So you would cut a piece of the eyelid out?
Yes.
He says we should try eye drops first. At this vet, yet another diagnosis.
He's got what are called dystichia.
He suggests testing to know for sure and recommends an eye lubricant.
This is common bulldog territory.
Hard to know what's needed. In the end, the majority of vets recommend tests and that we take Marshall to an eye specialist. So we do. Sure enough, all he has are dry eyes that require drops. And the price tag for that brings us to our final item, Pet Med Markup, testing the cost of drugs at the vet.
And this one here is an antibiotic.
Those eye meds sold to Tammy were $115. Pretty expensive when you're talking about just one dog. But what about a whole brood of them? As a breeder, Tammy McAllister's figured out her own money-saving tricks.
We travel to a vet in Michigan that we know for a lot of our health testing.
And medication, too, including one for Marshall's eyes.
Here, the medication was $71. For the same vial in the US, $18.
So add a medication price difference of $53 to our bill. But you can save in Canada too. With a prescription from the vet, you can shop around. Just check out these prices. Cephalexin, a popular antibiotic, is about $44 at the vet. We find it at the pharmacy for less than $25. We tell these dog owners how much they could be saving.
You spent $412 on antibiotics.
Yes.
We found the same medications for $170. That's a savings of more than $240.
That one really hurts.
All told, we get dinged with a lot of unnecessary charges for Marshall, adding up to $525. Back at the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, Marshall may be dozing, but our findings sure are a wake-up call.
Had we gone along with every unnecessary treatment that was recommended for him, we would have been out hundreds of dollars. So that's a lot of money. Is that what people should expect at the vet?
You need to have very active conversations with your veterinarian. We will find lots of ways to work with you to maximize the health of your pet and to minimize costs.
Well, if you don't want to take it lying down, don't be barking mad. Ask your vet about 3-year vaccines. If your pet's on a drug to prevent heartworm, consider whether he really needs the annual test. Regular vet checks are important, but be sure to ask questions and shop around. As for Marshall's owner, Tammy McAllister, it's been a real eye-opener for her, too.
I didn't imagine there would be such a varying degree from vet to vet.
Were you disappointed at all?
Yeah, I was disappointed.
But the big question...
Will he work with us again? Be our watchdog?
Absolutely.